I'm Rhett.
And I'm Brandon.
And we're the House Dads. Because we're dads who sell houses.
But we're also husbands, business owners, sports freaks, Christians,
friends, marketing nerds, TV show bingers, and so many more things.
Like so many of you, we're just trying to do it all, and we're trying to do it well.
And that's what we're here to talk about.
Welcome to episode 21 of the House Dads podcast. I'm Brandon.
I'm Rhett.
I didn't even tell him I was going to do that. How about that? He was ready for it. We're excited about this one today. This one's going to be a little different. It's going to be kind of geared a little bit more towards our realtor friends. You don't have to just completely tune out, though, if you're not a realtor listening to this. We're going to be talking about what we wish we would have known when we started our real estate businesses.
And boy, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I think the hard thing about this was not coming up with ideas, but was condensing them down to the most important ideas.
We started with the top three.
Yeah.
We got a top. I'll say top. It's not even top. It's just
really
things
not.
that we immediately came to us. There's plenty.
Yeah, things
plenty
that we
more.
wish we would have known when we started. You know, wisdom is not necessarily learning from your mistakes. It's learning from the mistakes of others so you don't have to suffer the consequences. So learn from our mistakes.
Yep.
Some of the biggest lessons that we're going to be talking about, what we wish we would have known, is things that, like, it took me a couple of years, and even still that I'm trying to implement in my business. Yeah. That, man, if I would have figured it out a lot sooner, it would have saved me a whole lot of headache, saved me a lot of money. It would have saved me probably some deals, so all those different things. And so hopefully we can help you.
And the more I think about it, I kind of learn from my mistakes.
Sure.
Like I'm just the type of person, even
a little
growing
hard-headed.
up,
That's
a little
what that's
hard-headed.
called.
I'm sure my parents were like, they told me a lot of things I didn't do. I had to find out on myself. So a lot of these things I am thankful for that I made the mistake of not doing. But either way, we get the question a lot. Brandon is a broker owner. I'm a team leader. Our job is to help people earlier in their career or even later in their career.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is a good way to condense some things. And we're just, somebody asked us again, we're just going to send them this link.
Yeah, that's all. Just watch the video. We already covered this.
Go listen.
No, that's been our desire for this whole podcast, is to help everybody, and so being the house dads, house is a big part of this. Yep. Real estate is a massive part of our lives, and being able to sell a lot of houses has been a lot of fun, and being able to help a lot of people do that is a lot of fun. One of the things that gives me the most joy is seeing realtors that I have helped train and talk to and whatnot, and seeing them implement these things earlier than I did, and seeing how successful they are.
For sure.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
And again, to reiterate, as I'm reading these, I'm like, man, this translates to every other aspect. This isn't just real estate. Of course, our stories and what will be real estate, but you want me to start off?
Yeah, and you also don't have to be at the beginning of your career.
No.
Like some of these things, you'd be like, crap,
we're still working
I need to kind of do
things.
that now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, yes, but please, take number one.
I'll start off my number one in no particular order, but when you start off, don't focus on the paycheck. Focus on learning. Absorb as much education and learning as you can. I think in the real estate industry specifically, people are so attracted to it because you can make a lot of money.
Yep.
It's flexible. You can be your own boss, right? And that's what people want right out of the gate.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, I want to make as much money as possible. But if you want to have a longevity mindset, you got to learn first.
Yep.
You got to just not focus on what you're making per check or even what you're making in general. You got to just, every day needs to be about what can I learn today?
Exactly.
I didn't have that
better
mindset.
at your craft.
Yeah, getting better at it. I didn't have that mindset starting off. I was just kind of like focused on who can I help, who's the deal, what's the deal, what's the next deal.
Yeah.
Instead of like going to classes, watching YouTube videos, watching podcasts.
Yeah. And it's hard because you're trying to pay your bills.
Yeah.
But to master your craft, you will eventually help pay your bills.
Yes.
Right? So you have to get better at what you're doing. And it's so easy to just get caught up in the paycheck. It was an attorney. He worked at a title company. Didn't like have ownership in the title company or anything, but I'd done a couple closings with him, and so I got to know him there. But then a couple weeks later, I ran into him, and he said, "Oh, well, no, I'm not doing closings anymore. I'm actually a realtor. I got my license." And I'm like, "What?"
Uh-huh.
And he's like, "Yeah, I just saw y'all would show up and collect the paycheck." And I'm like,
"Oh no."
Okay, man. And so that's kind of that's a big myth about the industry, if you will, or whatever. And you see it on HGTV. You see them go flip a house, and potential commission is $80,000.
People love to see that
like,
number. Like, wait, I should do that.
Exactly. And so it's easy, even when you get into the career, to just focus on the paycheck.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're not learning, then that paycheck may come. And a lot of times, if you're focused on that paycheck, that could allow you to do some things let's say, questionably with
Yeah.
your integrity and
Yeah,
stuff like
for
that
sure.
too. If you're just so focused on a paycheck and so desperate for a paycheck, you may not always tell the truth. You may not do those different things.
Right.
You got to really focus on learning, mastering your craft.
Yeah, and not just early on. It needs to be a continuous thing. We're learning stuff
Still.
years and years in every
Exactly.
day. So
Yeah, continuing. You don't
Yep.
get to a point where you're doing that.
Nope.
Now, I think the more that I've grown in my career is the more that I've realized how much I need to still learn.
yeah,
So that's good.
yeah, that's my number
one. Okay, so my number one would be just because it works for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And that's kind of like a previous episode that we talked about, imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Trying to be somebody that you're not. Just because you see another realtor who has been super successful buying leads through Zillow or whatever it is, that doesn't mean that that's going to be your exact formula or model to follow to success.
Right.
You look at Rhett's social media and you're like, man, I just want to do reels like him. I want to do all those things. Like, it could be the model that you need to follow, but just because it works for him doesn't mean it doesn't mean it will work for you. Maybe that's not your target. Maybe that's not your market. You have to kind of figure out, okay, you learn, and imitation is the finest form of flattery. So you can imitate some other people's businesses, but more than imitation, you got to innovate.
Yeah.
You got to create.
Mm-hmm.
You got to come up with some things that work for you, because just because it worked for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree, and I'm piggybacking off of that.
Okay, I love it.
I was going to add input, but I'm like, I feel like one of mine kind of goes along
Sure.
with that. But my number 2 is there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Right.
It's another way of
Very
kind of
simple.
saying, what works for somebody else doesn't work for you. When you get started, typically who you're around is who you're asking for advice.
Right.
And you can quickly find out work. I mean, take a long time to find out that what they're doing doesn't necessarily work for you.
Right.
There's different models. Some agents will really be heavy on online leads,
right,
and they're paying for that. Some are on social media.
Right.
Some are, there's so many different ways to skin a cat to do well in real estate that you don't need to pigeonhole yourself to just one. Especially early on, you need to experiment. You need to do open houses. You need to do for sale by owners. You gotta just put your toe in all the waters.
That's right. That's key.
And see what helps.
It's key because, like you said, who you surround yourself with, whether it's your brokerage, whether it's your team, whether it's other agents or whatnot, or even just the people you watch on YouTube or a podcast, you can get stuck in that group think of this is the only way that it'll work.
Yeah.
But there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yep.
Just because it worked for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you. You have to try all these different things or try a variation of different things, bits and pieces, to see what actually works for you.
Yeah.
It's so easy to just get into that group think of, well, I see how they do it, and that's wrong because that's not how we do it.
Yeah.
No. Try it.
Yeah.
You never know. It may work for you.
Yeah, when I first started, the people that I were around were really heavy on like, hey, you need to call for sale by owners,
Right.
you need to call expired.
Right.
And I tried that.
Sure.
And don't get me wrong, there's people who build businesses.
That's how my dad built our business. Yeah.
And I'm not even saying I shouldn't try to do it now, but it's not how I grew my business.
That's right.
And I still to this day, I don't really do that.
Right.
Should I sometimes? Sure. But again, there's more than one way to skin a cat.
And that's a case in point, because when I got started, that's exactly how I built my business.
Is it?
Calling for sale by owners.
Yep.
Calling for sale by owners, converting them into listings, and building my business that way.
Yeah.
And so it's case in point. Get to different places in our career where he's done things I've never done and I've done things he's never done. It doesn't mean either one's right or wrong.
Yeah.
It just means that there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah, the more you're in real estate, the more you do kind of get those repeats, those referrals, but it takes some time to get there.
A long
so
time
you
to
do
get
have
there.
to have that exploratory phase in the beginning of trying things, but not sticking. I say not sticking with one. You do have to be consistent, but like don't have an open mind.
And it changes too.
Yeah,
absolutely. It changes massively. And so this leads us perfectly to the next one. Is what I've got is who you surround yourself with is paramount. Paramount.
Powerful word.
One of our good friends that we meet with all the time, he used to say, like, at his former brokerage, they made all the other agents the enemy. Like, there are no good agents out there except for the ones within this brokerage.
Yeah.
And so Rhett and I come from different brokerages. We've got friends at all kinds of different brokerages and whatnot. And so, what I'm trying to get at is who you surround yourself with is so, so important. And if they say that everybody else is doing everything wrong and we're the only ones that do it right, you may want to kind of consider that source. Yeah. So who you surround yourself with is so important. Obviously, a mentor, a coach, a broker, a team leader, another agent, somebody that's going to help you, grow you, develop you tell you things that you can do better, tell you things that you're doing well. You got to put yourself around the right people.
Yeah, whether that's a solo person or whether that's a group of people.
Right.
Like it's just so important to not do it alone.
Yeah.
I contribute. So I'm, again, going to piggyback off it and go to the next one.
Perfect.
For me, don't be afraid to ask for help or get a mentor or a team leader.
Right.
When I first started, I did have the very independent mentality of like, I can do this on my own.
Right.
You know, I don't really need help. And I feel like I've been an entrepreneur in college and stuff, so I can do it.
Right.
I didn't ask for the help that I needed to get. So having to do over, I would have sought out a mentor. I would have possibly joined a team just so I could have learned and absorbed the processes and have someone that I like designated that I could go to.
Correct.
Because really you go to a brokerage and you can just, it's not a very defined role of who's my mentor, who's my leader.
Right.
But I would encourage someone to find a defined person. So if you're going to go to Smart Move, like find somebody that is going to be your person. They know, hey, if you need something, call me.
That's right.
But that's what I would have done. I would have probably joined a team and had a team leader, but I didn't ask for help when I started off as much as I needed to.
Yeah, and I feel like this is just important because when I got started, I had help within my group and everything like that, but I didn't ask for help outside of my group.
Yeah.
You know, and so I was really stuck in one way of doing things. This is the way that it works. And so I just want to reiterate again that, you know, other agents out there, a lot of them are helpful. And there's plenty of business to go around, and they want to teach, and they want to help, and they want to give you ideas and stuff like that. Some of the most beneficial talks, I'll call Rhett every once in a while and be like, bro, I called you just a couple of weeks ago. I was like, man, I got this situation. What do you think?
Yeah.
And so having those relationships is awesome.
And doesn't have to be within your brokerage.
Exactly. It doesn't just have to be this competitive type of nature. You really can help.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, that was mine, right? What I'm all out of order.
I don't know.
Keep stealing your
I'll
stuff.
go to 3. I'll go to 3. So the next one, and this is so important for you new agents. It's so important for anybody. Even now, this is for everybody. Don't pretend to know what you don't. Don't fake it until you make it. Okay? Like even now, if I don't know the answer to something, guess what I say? I don't know.
I don't know.
Like as simple as that. I don't know, but I will find that out for you. As a broker and owner of a company, there are things that our agents come to me with, other people come to me with, clients come to me with, and I say, I don't know. I'm going to have to do some research. I'm going to have to think about that. I'm going to have to ask some people about that. Like, that is okay. It's so much better to do that than to just BS an answer and pretend like you know it.
Yeah, it takes swallowing your pride because you feel like you're in the industry, you're a leader, you should know.
Right.
So it's our inclination. Like somebody asked me today, have you ever done this type of loan? And my initial thought was like, I'm a team leader. I have to say yes.
Right.
But I was like, no, I've never experienced that before. So like, you know, that gives you credibility when you admit it.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. It's hard to admit sometimes. And the pressure is so on the newer agent. Yeah. You know, when they're out showing houses to a client, when they're, you know, having a difficult transaction, whatever it is, like especially in the heat of the moment when you're put on the spot and you feel like you should know something, but you don't, you want to just make something up. Yeah. But what that ends up doing is catching you later on because you probably say the wrong thing. You know, and you could get yourself in trouble. Yeah. You could lie. Whatever it is, it's better to say nothing at all, right, than accuse yourself and say the wrong thing. So,
and there's tasteful ways to do it. You don't have to say,
sure.
I don't know. Yeah, you know, you can just own up to it. Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't know. I'm gonna try to find out.
Man, that's a unique one. That's a great question. Yeah. I know exactly who to call and ask, and I'll be right back with you.
Yep.
Exactly. So just don't BS it. Don't pretend to know what you don't. Don't fake it till you make it.
It's funny because they say, you know, and I even tell team members like perception is everything. You know, you want to look like you know what you're talking about, but you also want to do it in a way of like, hey, I'm not saying go show a house, go preview a house and say I'm showing a client a house. You don't have to say that. Right. But perception is that you're being active and you're doing it. So there's tasteful ways to follow that perception.
One of the biggest things, agents, I know you probably get this question all the time. You're out showing a client and it's like you got 7 different houses you're going to show that one particular client. You don't know the details and the backgrounds of every single house in every single neighborhood and you cannot in all of these markets that you work in. And so at the house, you're like, well, what do you think of the price? What do you think? Yeah. Don't lie to them. Be honest. Say, you know what? I'm not sure, but I'll be glad to do some more research. I don't want to just shoot off the hip and tell you some random idea. Let me go back and find you some more information. Man, and you know it too, between agent to agent, when you're having conversations with them, that's where there's a lot of pressure too.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you really are competing at that point. If you don't know something, don't lie.
Yep.
Just say, you know what? Let me ask my client. You know what? I'm not really sure about that. Let me double check.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try and pretend to know something that you don't.
I love when I'm
You
working.
can tell it's a pet peeve of mine.
I get it. I love when I'm working with someone I'm really comfortable with.
Yeah.
And when they ask me questions, I'm like, bro, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not like,
Sorry
I'm not
about you.
I don't know flooring. I don't know like this and that. So you get a little more confident with like, I don't know. But I'll look it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I can
Exactly.
pet peeve. He's peeved over here.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind
I
of
can feel the steam coming off.
I need to relax. You take the next one.
Chill, bro.
Yeah.
My next one, number 3, is it's kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But don't try to reinvent the wheel. Which you're like, wait, you just told me there's more than one way to skin a cat. Hear what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Don't reinvent the wheel in the sense of, I think the book I've read, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, if it's kind of like what people see as the Bible of real estate. They say
for all you Kool-Aid drinkers.
Yeah, right, for the K-Dub peeps. But don't they say creativity comes later. You have to see what people are doing that are working.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basic principle foundation things. That doesn't necessarily mean what we're talking about with for sale by owners, this and that. This means like foundational things. If it's getting up early, if it's whatever. I think one thing that bit me in the butt early on is I love marketing. So I was trying to do really creative marketing things.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, they were cool, but like it slowed me down a bit because I was focused on the creativity before I was on the basic principles.
Right.
I was trying to reinvent the wheel of, maybe I'll get more clients if I do this.
Right.
It's like, well, you see a lot of agents doing this one thing and it's working.
Yeah.
You may want to focus on that before you start getting creative and reinventing the wheel.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a big deal. There's a tactful way to imitate.
Yeah.
Like you got to be careful that you just don't take other people's content and post it directly or take other people's stuff and do it. But, I've asked Rhett before, dude, I love what you did here. I'm going to tweak it a little bit and stuff like that. Are you cool with that? Like imitation is okay. And like you said, that's kind of foundational. Yeah. You start with imitating and figuring out your own stuff and you start finding out that you don't need to reinvent the wheel to build your business. Yeah. And then you get to a point where you'll start to innovate and create and do all kinds of stuff yourself.
There is a proven track record oftentimes of what you should be doing or could be doing. Don't just throw that out the window and say, I got a better way.
Exactly. Yep.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
That's right. That's good. Next one, super important. We've talked about this in other podcasts, and this is for any business, especially in your real estate career. Don't wait until you're busy to develop your systems. Massively important. Don't wait till you're busy to say, I'm going to figure out my email templates. I'm going to figure out a checklist. I'm going to figure out a lead management system. I'm going to figure out a referral thing. All those different things, like you talked about in the beginning, focus on learning and not the paycheck. Mm-hmm. Learn, implement systems, develop them, test them, try them, get feedback, grow all of those things initially so that when you do start getting busy, you don't lose clients, you don't lose money, you don't lose deals, you don't lose relationships because you've already got those systems built.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, like the things, maybe ironic, the things that you do that get you more business, of being on top of it. Like you respond quickly, you communicate well. The better you do that, the more your business will grow.
Correct.
The more your business grows,
the harder that gets.
The more that's going to fall through the cracks.
Yes.
So if you establish it on the front end of a CRM, all these systems that he just mentioned, then you're not going to have that growing pain. There's going to be growing pains no matter what, but you can ease them up.
Right.
It kind of goes into like, with our roles now, we're hiring positions of admin.
Right.
And it's like, do we wait until we're just totally falling through the cracks and like struggling before we make the next hire, and then you got to train them? Or do you do it on the front end and hire someone early on? That way you're ready for, allow the growth to happen.
And this is important too, like we talked about, where it's so important for who you surround yourself with. The team, the brokerage, whatever it is that you join, if you can borrow their systems, if you can implement their systems, if those things are already in place, then even though like it may seem redundant, it may seem like overkill, do it when you're only working with one client. Yeah. Even if it seems like it's too much, because it's going to develop that habit
for sure,
to where when you're working with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 at a time, it's just a natural part of the system.
Yep. And that's what I tell team members is like, hey, this is easy now. Like, when they get a little nurturing database, I'm like, this is easy to keep track on a piece of paper now. But when you're running and gunning, you got to have a CRM. You got to have something to implement a better system, I should say. I'm not going to force one way or the other. But you got to nip it in the bud in the beginning.
That's right. Exactly.
So, all right, my last one. Ironically, it's like my motto this year. It's
so
something
good.
I'm still trying to do. But if I knew it earlier, man, this would have been clutch. But the line is, done is better than perfect.
Awesome.
I am, I don't say perfectionist, but I want things to look a certain way.
Right.
I overthink. And at the end of the day, complexity is the enemy of execution. If it's harder to do, or if you're things you got to tweak, you're not going to implement it. You're not going to actually do those things that's going to keep you from growth and keep you from maturing. So done is better than perfect. Put it out there. I'm not saying put out some sloppy, incorrect thing, but putting it out is just so much more important than holding it back, tweaking it, and then never doing it at all.
Analysis by paralysis.
Analysis by that.
I think that's why we do this podcast so well.
Yeah.
Because you and I are different in that area. And you remind me a lot of my dad in that area. Because he would like work on stuff and work on stuff and work on stuff and tweak on stuff and tweak on stuff. And I'm like, when are we going to do this?
Yeah.
Let's just do it, and kind of figure out the rest later. Getting it done is better than perfecting it. And a lot of times the best way to learn is by doing it, and then you can make those little tweaks afterwards.
Tweak and learn as you go.
Exactly.
But like putting it out there is just way more important.
That's good.
So that's my motto this year. But if I would have known it year 1, year 2,
it'd have been a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, this one, if I would have known year 1, year 2, I would have done a lot better too. And my last point is that it is freaking hard work.
Freaking hard work.
Freaking hard work.
It is.
We kind of touched on this earlier, that it's just, you get the rap that realtors just show up at a closing, do a few showings, get a paycheck, and especially if you want to build a business and not just be a realtor, or not just be, an agent that goes from transaction to transaction, but you really want to build a lasting, impactful, meaningful, fruitful, profitable business. It is hard work.
Yep.
And I've used the analogy before where like a jet expends most of its fuel on takeoff. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is true for your real estate business as well, that the initial grind is massive. The success in the real estate business, and I would say in any business, is not necessarily in just a big year, but it's consistency.
Oh, yeah.
It's longevity, right? That's really success. And so when you build on good principles initially, it's going to be hard, right? But stick it out and do things well and do things with excellence, and it's going to pay off in the long run. I think it's easy to just rest on like, okay, what's easy and what's just, okay, this is just going to get me closer and quicker of a paycheck. But is it the right thing to do? Is it sustainable, and is it going to actually be for the longevity of your business? Yeah. It's just hard work.
I think you could translate this for so many different industries. Mm-hmm. Like, all you see is the attractive position or occupation, and you're like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And you don't know anything. Mm-hmm. Like I always think about this. It's so dumb, but like when kids say they want to be astronauts, I'm like, do you know how much you need to know to be? I'm just.
You have to be pretty good at math and science to get there.
Just want to go to space.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, no, you got to go through school. It's hard. Like, that's for a lot of things. Doctor, realtor, dentist, all that kind of stuff. It looks attractive because you see them, raking in the money, quote unquote. But like, man, there's some hard work behind the scenes that they're still doing. Yeah. Not just to mention the front end as well.
And even when I sold a couple houses early on and I felt like I was doing good. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is kind of easy if I'm being honest with you. And I say easy, it's just, this is the most money I've ever made and the easiest effort I've had to put in to receive it. But when I stopped receiving the results consistently, it's because I wasn't putting in the consistent hard work. Yeah. And so, you see people who have had these long real estate careers, long business careers, great client bases. It's because they worked hard. They didn't luck into that. No. It's so easy to just fall back and say, oh, it's because their daddy's this. Mm-hmm. And it's because, they went with that team or that brokerage or this or that. It was hard work. Yep. It was hard work that got them there.
For sure.
So
that's a good one.
Cool.
It's going in on.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that was helpful for you guys. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that was not all of them that we have.
Yeah.
This would even almost warrant a part 2, but that's just kind of what came to mind.
And I think what we can do is with this one, we would love, just like but we would really love your feedback on this episode. If there's something that you think that we missed, that's a real important one, let us know. If there's any questions that you have, Rhett and I are an open book, and it's not a recruiting pitch by any means. Like, if you have a question, and you're just like, hey, I was kind of thinking about this. If you're seeing this, you probably got our socials.
Yeah.
excuse me, you probably got our numbers. Call us, text us,
reach out,
DM us. We're glad to help.
Yeah, and any other leaders in the industry, if you feel free to share this podcast.
For sure.
Your people are safe. We're just trying to help.
Yes,
but share this with them as well, anyone you think needs to hear it, because I feel like a lot of people are going to resonate with it.
I think so too. Hope this was helpful. Hope it saves you a whole lot of headaches that we had to just go through ourselves, and that you can start implementing some of this stuff sooner than later. Have a great one. Thank you for tuning in today.